Good morning, gang. Happy Monday morning. All right, it's the first Monday into silly season. The campaigns are in full swing now. The conventions are over. Now we'll see if we have any debates. I know we're supposed to have one because Kamala Harris chickened out of the other two. But yeah, it was an interesting weekend, and we might want to be paying attention here because they are already laying the groundwork, setting up the cheat. And don't worry about it. They're going to come after all of us for it, too. You've probably seen everything that happened over the weekend, how the media was just fawning over the DNC, oh my God, it was great, wonderful. It was a 4-day Trump hate fest, no policy, but God knows we could talk about Trump for 4 days, how much we hate him. You see all the media over the weekend talking about how Kamala Harris is moving to the center, right? She's not a radical leftist. She's a moderate Democrat, right? Okay. And that means that, Babe Ruth was an average baseball player too. But then we got into of course, the next part, the panic setting in, the absolute character assassination of RFK over the weekend, that they were just trying to say, this guy can't talk, he's completely lost touch with reality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's completely lost touch with the Democrat Party because he's not a communist, nor was his father, nor was his uncle. Both of them who seem to be very strongly against communism. Of course, you have the morons in the Kennedy family who think Kamala Harris is great, because they aren't smart enough to look at what she's done. They're just going to go into, there's a D behind her name, she must be great. I mean, I'll give you this one, okay? If Trump was a Democrat, if he had a D behind his name, they'd be fawning all over him how great he was. I mean, that's literally the only difference. Okay? He could say every word he's said for the last 8 years, but if he had a D behind his name, Joy Behar and Don Lemon would love him. Okay. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. But now we get into how they're setting us up for the cheat, the veiled threats that are being made, okay? You see all these polls that are out there, Kamala Harris is up 3 points in Pennsylvania, up 5 in Michigan, she's winning by 2 in Georgia. Nobody believes this crap, okay? But it goes back to the old Nazi propaganda stuff, Joseph Goebbels, tell a lie often enough and people believe it, okay? Many of you probably know the old adage in sales, you have to ask for the sale 7 times before you get it. That's the premise of what they're working on right now. They're trying to tell you over and over and over and over that Kamala Harris is winning, that she's leading, to the point where when they stuff the ballot box out of suitcases at 2 o'clock in the morning come November, you'll believe it. They think that's going to work. It's not. So now they're ramping it up a little bit. And I'm going to go back about a week ago. Many of you guys remember me showing you this clip.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions.
Yeah, that was the Jamie Raskin, Maryland, saying that Congress has to use the 14th Amendment, that they're not going to certify the election, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, if not, we have to get ready for civil war. You guys remember that one. Well, okay. So then we get something that happened Friday afternoon. And, again, typical Friday, they try to bury it at the end. But this is Merrick Garland talking about certifying the election. Watch this.
I guess as a follow-up on Scott's question, if you're sitting in these hearings with prosecutors and judges at the courthouse down the street, they're increasingly expressing concerns about the upcoming transfer of power and the potential danger of another January 6th. Do you share those concerns at all?
I think our prosecutions have made clear what we think about people who try to interfere with the peaceful transfer of power, which is an essential and fundamental element of our democracy. I quibble about whether we have 1,500 or slightly less than 1,500, but we have way more than 1,400 now prosecutions, and we have a substantial number of convictions. I think that's shown to everybody how seriously we take an effort to interfere with the peaceful transfer of power. The last January 6th, the coming January 6th, and every January 6th after that. I want to make clear to anybody who is thinking about interfering with that, they can see what we've done with respect to the January 6th prosecutions, and the Justice Department will continue to protect our democracy.
So Garland issues a veiled threat against the people. And notice how he phrased this all. The violent Trump supporters. So he's kind of telling you in there that, okay, Kamala Harris is going to win. The transfer of power is going to be from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris. And they're going to go after the Trump supporters who are going to object to the election. That, we prosecuted not quite 1,500, but well over 1,400 people that we've got charges up against. Yada, yada, yada. Let me ask you this. What happens when it is too big to rig? I mean, are we going to have another situation where we have more ballots cast than we have registered voters in the country? We did in 2020, okay? Just to give you that. By some 20 million votes, there were more ballots cast than registered voters in the country. Trying to figure out how that one happened. It was something like 158 million ballots were cast on 139 million registered voters. And Joe had all those millions of votes that came in at 2 o'clock in the morning. Are we going to see the same thing? Now, let me ask you this. If we get into a cheat and violent protests, which side has the propensity for violent protests? He brought up January 6th quite a bit. Again, there was no violence on January 6th. A couple of broken windows. Okay. And maybe whoever broke the window, charge him with property damage. Okay. It's a misdemeanor. Maybe pay restitution, community service. Not 3.5 years in solitary confinement. Are they going to go after all the people that burn down buildings, flip cars, assault police officers, yada, yada, yada? Are they going to do that? Are they going to, I don't know, Merrick Garland, are you going to arrest the members of Congress who are going to, as Jamie Raskin put it, stand in the way of certifying the election, the peace, interrupting the peaceful transfer of power? I can pretty much bet that ain't going to happen. But they're setting it all up. I mean, remember this. To this day, Hillary Clinton still claims that she won in 2016, that she was cheated out of the election. Still, okay, almost 8 years later. But it's okay for her to question election integrity, but God forbid anybody on the other side do it. They are setting us up, and we need to be aware of this for multiple reasons. First off, we need to make sure that it's too big to rig, okay? Just simply put there. But think about what your response is going to be, yours personally. If Fox News calls Arizona early and the AP says Kamala Harris won, what's your response going to be? I mean, last time around we had January 6th and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people, I don't know how many showed up in D.C. I know the rally was immense, but how many people actually showed up on the steps of the Capitol? People were pissed. What are you going to do? A lot of YouTubers that went to January 6th and TikTokers and everything like that, days of social media reporting on it. What are you going to do? How important is it for your voice to be heard? I mean, now maybe you don't go to Washington, D.C., but are you going to your state capital if they try to pull something, especially depending on the state you're in? You know, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona primarily. Okay. We've seen some of the states back and forth on the laws. Michigan coming up and saying that no, they will not hold back certification even if there's allegations of fraud. That's a problem. Okay. Some states have now said they are going to require proof of citizenship. Tennessee's one of them. We always had to show ID. Now we have to show proof of citizenship. And as I said the other day, maybe that means a real ID on your driver's license. Maybe it means taking your passport with you to be able to vote. Those are good things. But notice how it's only the red states that are passing those, because the conservatives are completely fine with proving citizenship. The liberals aren't, because they think that anybody should be able to vote who lives here. I mean, I don't know. If I take a vacation pick somewhere, okay, Poland, and it happens to be election day, I think I'll just go in and vote today. No, it doesn't work that way, okay? But that's what they're calling for. I want to know if when Trump wins, if, you know, again, he's talking January 6th, the day of the certification, not the day of the actual inauguration. I want to know if when the Democrats are marching on Washington, because you know they will, they'll be burning police cars on the way and trying to set fire to the Capitol. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they tried to burn down the White House. But I want to know if the Department of Justice is going to go after them. That's going to be very telling, because most of us all agree that we have a two-tiered justice system in this country. Are they going to go after the liberals? Because their track record is no. You know, Seattle, Chaz Chop, Minneapolis, Kenosha, whatever. They didn't go ahead. They didn't prosecute any of the violent looters or the arsonists. But the guy who walks through the Capitol, he spent 3.5 years in jail. Finally, I just want to remember this. Merrick Garland could have been on the Supreme Court. I'm not a Mitch McConnell fan at all. But if there's any legacy he has, his greatest accomplishment in Congress was blocking that nomination from Obama. Merrick Garland needs to be prosecuted for treason, along with Adam Schiff and Joe Biden and all these people. Jamie Raskin's right. in roughly 70 days, civil war is probably going to start. And whether it's left versus right, red versus blue, or the people versus the U.S. government, may I remind you, the Second Amendment wasn't meant for hunting. Pinball